So as we head into the next block of conversations, we're going to look at all of these insights and how we start turning them into actions. So looking forward to the next block of conversations. Quick reminder, one of the most surprising things for me was how the questions to our panelists come in so late. So please do start submitting them earlier, so that we've got much more time to work through all of those fabulous questions that you have. To kick us off, I'm very pleased to welcome Sean Stack, who's a senior consultant in Allen & Clark. They specialize in system design and secondary vocational and higher education. Sean brings a sharp lens to workforce development, the construction and industry sector in specific, particularly. And then today he'll share a practical toolkit for employers to better engage apprentices, which would be a key lever for lifting outcomes. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you. Cool. Kia ora everyone, really nice to be here. So today I'm going to be presenting sort of the highlights and the general direction of a toolkit that we're very fortunate to have been commissioned by Concove to produce. So I should have got some instructions on how to use it. There we go. Cool. So the fundamental question, I guess, is why are we creating a toolkit for employers? And so really it's about sort of moving from, or one way of moving from a current situation where apprenticeships are very necessary for the construction and infrastructure sector, like we've heard today, but also very challenging for employers. And then I guess the overall goal of the project is very closely aligned with Concove, which is a more productive, sustainable and resilient construction and infrastructure sector. So how are we doing it? So we're taking a hybrid human-centered design and evaluation approach, which I think panicked both our human-centered design expert and our evaluator, but they're on board now. And so really we're taking that approach because it sort of enables us to identify, develop and iterate on tools that respond directly to core challenges that employers face. And I'll come back to sort of what those challenges are in a little bit. In practice, we've done a document review, we've done a whole lot of interviews with apprentices and employers from a range of different trades. We finished data collection on Friday, so this is great timing to be presenting a toolkit. And next up, so everything we're going to be presenting today, our next phase, which is a really key part of the human-centered design bit, is to go back to the apprentices and employers that we engaged with and really work closely with them to iterate on the tools. So today I'm just going to be presenting a couple of examples. You've got on your tables a printout because I'm going to be going for the busiest slide award. And so I thought it would be easier if you're able to follow along yourselves to an extent. Cool. So really what you can see on the screen now is the sort of backbone of the toolkit. So based on our engagement with apprentices and employers, we've broken the process of an apprenticeship from an employer's point of view down into 6 sort of stages. So you can see there's like the stage when an employer is recruiting a prospective apprentice. There's a stage where an employer is confirming whether someone's a good fit for their business in an apprenticeship, when they're familiarising the apprentice with the trade or their business, training the apprentice to become a productive employee, starting to earn back their investment, which is obviously a really key consideration for a lot of employers, and then a much longer term stage where employers receive a return on their investment and training through increased profitability, sustainability and scalability. So some key things to note here is that we've tested this sort of framework with many employers of different sizes and trades, and we haven't had anyone tell us we're wrong yet, so that's a good sign. The other thing to note is that this does look very linear. We recognise that for a lot of people there's going to be moving back and forth between those stages as you start to do different tasks or things like that. But from a business perspective, this is how employers have been telling us they look at the apprenticeship journey. And then the other thing, the time periods that are stated up there vary a lot depending on a range of factors. So earlier I said that apprenticeships were challenging for employers. And so you can see down there those sort of two, the risk to employer and the productivity of businesses. Those are what we're really summarising the sort of the key risks to it, or the key challenges to employers. So the risk to an employer starts to sort of increase, it increases over time as the level of the employer's investment in the apprentice increases, and that goes to sort of some of the things people have been talking about with apprentices not completing apprenticeships. Something we've also heard quite a lot about is poaching of apprentices. So that's really sort of getting at that a business is investing all this money when an apprentice isn't actually, like, they're losing money on the apprentice. But then there's a point in the earn stage where suddenly they're actually able to charge that apprentice out and make more money on the apprentice than they are losing on investing in them. So the other challenge is the overall productivity of the business. So and this relates to time really as well, but when you first take on an apprentice, we've been told that the overall productivity drops as you've got people needing to make sure that they're safe, people needing to sort of upskill them on different things. But then there's a point at which that sort of the productivity starts to increase as the apprentice becomes more able to do things independently and things like that. So this toolkit is really aimed at bringing that point where the risk moves from increasing to decreasing, bringing that closer to the start of the apprenticeship journey, and also bringing also reducing the productivity loss that is incurred by a business when they take on apprentices. So here comes the sort of evaluation bit. And this isn't the busiest slide. The busiest slide is up next, and I do think I will win. So what you're seeing here basically is so for each of those stages that I discussed, there's a couple of key outcomes that occur at each stage. The quicker those outcomes are achieved, the more quickly you move towards achieving the next set of outcomes. So you can see right down the end in the return stage, you've got employers gaining increased sustainability, scalability, and profitability. And then before that, there's a whole lot of things that need to happen to get to that point. So thinking back to the sort of risk and productivity dynamics from the previous slide, once you've achieved the train outcomes there, so you're in the realm of starting to actually increase the overall productivity of your business. So this might be the point at which, for example, we heard a lot where an apprentice might get given limited supervision and be kind of like running a particular room on a building site or something like that. Then also, so the employer has also got more sort of flexibility in how they can deploy that apprentice, and then more overall productivity. So now my entry to the busiest slide award is this one. And this is sort of one of the drivers of the printouts, which I think I did too many, because my experience is most people tend to leave after a great keynote address. So you're either all very committed or live in Auckland, I would say. So what you can see here, and this is really, we're almost through the theory into the actual tools, and I did start a timer and I think we're doing well. So down the bottom you can see the mechanisms of change. So these are the things that these are the things that need to occur to achieve the outcomes. And I'll sort of get to some of these in a bit more detail shortly, but you're meant to read it vertically. So for example, you can see during the familiarise stage, one of the really key things we've heard about so much, both in this work and previous work, is that apprentices and employers need to have a mutual understanding of what their expectations are for each other. If you do that, then you're really making you're well on the way to achieving the outcome of an apprentice feeling safe and comfortable to learn. Once an apprentice feels safe and comfortable to learn, then you can start move down the outcome chain into the train bit. So, all very theoretical, and we're about to get to a tool. So, the reason why we've explained that is because that's the sort of framework that we've developed to basically understand what tools we should develop and communicate how they can contribute to achieving outcomes. Because I think you're going to be hearing several toolkits, and a group of us have been meeting about toolkits, and I don't think any of us are really super clear on exactly what a toolkit is going to look like yet. But some of you might have seen the Food and Fibre Cove toolkit, for example, for employers. Really good. It's really, really broad, though. It covers everything end to end. We wanted to sort of come up with a way of how can we develop a few really high impact tools that you can directly see this is the outcome that this is contributing to for my business, because we've been hearing a lot about how employers are under time pressure, cost pressure, so we think it's really important that they can clearly see, okay, if I adopt this, then this is going to lead to these outcomes for my business. So our first tool, it's addressing the mechanisms that you can see here. So an apprenticeship schedule. And I will note that like I said, we finished data collection on Friday, so we haven't had time to iterate on any of these things. And it's not just a calendar, there's more to come. So this is based on discussions we've been having with employers around sort of how important providing consistent opportunities for learning are, and consistent and dedicated opportunities for learning. So you can see there's sort of regularly scheduled catch-ups. You can see that we've also included training simulations. So this is based in particular on one employer who we spoke to that has used systematized a practice like this across a large business and multiple sites, and really, really rated it. So one of the key elements here, and this sort of demonstrates the direction we want to take the toolkit, is that monthly time commitment bit on the right. So with all of these tools, we want to sort of get to a point where business owners can actually understand, okay, well, what's the time commitment and therefore the costs that I'm going to have to incur if I want to adopt this tool, and make their own judgment of, am I okay with an apprentice spending 6% of their working hours basically in these sort of like learning meetings and things. The next step for us really is to take that through and sort of make it into a template where a business owner could put in the cost of that apprentice's, like a cost of an hour of that apprentice's time, so that they can really see, okay, am I comfortable with me spending $2,000 a week on this or something, whatever it is. It's all flexible, so if that looks too much, then the employer could go, actually, no, I want all those meetings to be half an hour so that it's half the time investment. So the other, tied to that, we also want to provide sort of agendas for the meetings that we've identified, or the activities that we've identified are important there. And so more than just sort of providing like a relatively meaningless template, with everything we're planning on providing sort of like actual sort of simulated exemplars, I suppose, of what this could look like for a particular business. And the things in these templates are based around what we've heard, sort of synthesized from a range of different employers, are really effective things to do. So that's sort of that's coming up to, got about 4 minutes left, I think. So there is in the little printout, there is another tool, sort of a different type of tool, a coaching playbook, and you can see here again we're sort of identifying what different mechanisms this second tool works through. The goal for the toolkit is to have tools that address all of these mechanisms, and then an employer that picks it up could look at it and they could go, okay, if I adopt all these practices, and they're all going to be sort of scalable to their particular circumstances, if I adopt all of these practices, the theory is that I should start being able to move my apprentices more quickly through these outcomes. And from a business's perspective, what that means is I'm able to more quickly get to the point where I'm breaking even on my apprentices' time. I'm able to more quickly get to the point where my apprentice is sort of training the next generation of apprentices. That's been one of the huge themes, is that the value of doing apprenticeships well is that you end up with a whole group of people who think like you. I've heard that sentence so many times in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, so that's sort of, I can't see if we have any questions, but if we do, I will stop. Otherwise, I will continue to give an overview of the playbook.
Thing Sean, do you want to just
cool.
give a minute overview on the playbook?
Yeah, excellent. Cool. So this is really kind of like so there's two types of tools we're aiming to produce, sort of process-based tools, which is like that schedule and those agendas, which are things that you can sort of adopt and integrate into the way that your business operates. The other type of tool is more guidance tools. Things that you can sort of give out to your different employees, and if they sort of implement those behaviours and things like that, then you'll also be contributing to outcomes. So this is our coaching playbook. So one of the things that we've been hearing about is the sort of transition that occurs over time for apprentices and the way that it's effective to teach an apprentice. So starting with sort of instruction where you're just directly showing someone what to do, then moving to sort of coaching as they become more competent, where you're starting to ask them questions or go through feedback or guided practice. And then finally sort of getting to mentoring, particularly important at the end stages of apprenticeships. And we've heard this has been one of the really key success factors between sort of businesses who retain apprentices and businesses who don't retain apprentices after they complete, is effective mentoring that extends to sort of even the sort of business coaching, as like how do I run my business type of conversations with apprentices. And we've found from what we've been hearing that the more a sort of business owner actually engages in those conversations with apprentices, the more likely an apprentice is to realise like, shit, I don't actually really know if I'm ready to do that myself yet. I might stay here and keep learning for a little bit longer. So we'd also be providing sort of some descriptions of what those actually look like in practice. And then finally, we will be providing self-reflection sort of guidance that businesses can hand out to their employees to use. So like I said, we just finished data collection. So we've got about 2 weeks left of work to go, probably of iterating with different business owners and stuff. We haven't spoke to any welders, so if anyone knows any welders that would like to speak with us, that would be great. Well, there we go. Cool.
And there we've got some questions right on cue. So it looks like a useful resource for employers. How will employers access the resources? Yeah,
so really interesting question. Our understanding, and based on conversations with Anne-Marie, shout out Anne-Marie who isn't here today unfortunately, is that the idea is that hopefully we'll be able to get these distributed through industry associations. So that it would be like co-branded, I suppose, by Concove and an industry association. But that's probably more a question for Anne-Marie than me.
Okay, long-term plans on tracking the impact?
With my evaluator hat on, impact tracking is like extraordinarily difficult. So, out of scope, I would say, with my consulting hat on.
Cool, and then how flexible is the toolkit in allowing users? That's gone.
In terms of flexibility, that's one of our key things that we're aiming to design for. So with the example of that, we'd ideally provide everything in sort of like template form with exemplars so that you wouldn't just get like a PDF, you'd get a Word document where you can enter your own stuff, Excel sheets that will sort of calculate time commitment and cost for a business of adopting particular practices themselves based on the information the business has about themselves.
Fantastic. And then I've got a question. We've learned yesterday about AI for personalisation in assessments. Got any ideas around or any plans in terms of AI across this tool?
I personally am a bit of an AI skeptic still. You know, the first time I spoke to ChatGPT, I was like, "Holy shit, it's a real person." But now I sort of I don't think it's quite there, and that I would recommend people to like use it. Yeah, cool. Well, it's just my view, but
excellent. Well, Sean, it was lovely to hear from you today. Thank you so much for all of that, and hoping that this will have legs and go forward. Thank you.